Good evening, friends and family, and thank you for coming to another night with Repair, Restore, and Grow Black Communities Behind Black Business. And tonight we have another wonderful guest for you, another gem in our community, Johnny Bolton, who is a certified appraiser. And I know many of you have had your homes appraised or would like to have your home appraised, and do not understand what all is involved in the appraisal and how these appraisals impact our community. Not only your home, the equity in your home, the sale of your home, but our communities at large here, and especially in the Chicago area. So Johnny is very busy. We've had some difficult time trying to get him on, but I want to thank you for taking time to come out and be on our show tonight.
Oh, you're more than welcome. Yeah, it's been an experience trying to, coordinate things and me
Sure.
being out of town and then one night might not work. So finally getting an opportunity to get this done.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, we really appreciate it. And we appreciate you.
Thank you.
Um, so, family, as you know, we are a nonprofit organization and we work really hard to enhance the awareness and support of Black businesses in our communities. We have many small communities here in Chicago, and forming and sustaining Black communities, it's very, very difficult for a number of reasons. Lack of resources is one of them, probably the number one reason, and that's why it's so important that we support our community, our businesses in our communities, and it not be a fad or a novelty, but it's something that is a way of life, so that the businesses can continue to be fueled and pull resources back into the community so we can sustain ourselves. And so that's why we started this organization and why we have these podcasts every Wednesday night. We mostly bring businesses to you. Sometimes we discuss topics about what's going on in our community, but we really want you to meet these business people that we have, learn from them in terms of what they're doing, and understand why they are so important to our survival. And so that's why we have our podcast on Wednesday nights. We also feel it's very important to maintain our history. And that's why we support our Black bookstores. When we started this organization, uh, we only had a few Black bookstores, but we do have a resurgence of Black bookstores here in Chicago. Please go to our website at rrgbc.org, where we have them listed. And we ask that you support our bookstores. We know that you are purchasing on Amazon, but we need to support our bookstores. And that's not only our customers, but you authors that are writing books. Think about placing your books in our bookstores and having reads and autograph signings in these different bookstores, and imparting the knowledge that you have to the people directly in the community. And so we feature a bookstore on our website regularly. And the bookstore that we have this month continuing is the Underground Bookstore at 1727 East 87th Street. Their website is undergroundbookstore.com. The Underground Bookstore is probably our oldest bookstore here in Chicago. Brother Yoel has been there for over 20 years. And you're not going to find the reads in other places that you're going to find at the Underground. So we ask that you support the Underground Bookstore, especially, as well as many of our other bookstores. We go a step further. We give a book away. Last month, it was the Abolition for the People by Colin Kaepernick. And we did have a winner of that book, because what we do, if you subscribe to our website, you become eligible to win the book. And there's no strings attached. We pay for the book. We ask that you go into the bookstore to actually pick it up. But if you can't, then we will pay for the shipping to you free of charge. That's how important we feel it is to have this knowledge imparted out here. For this month, Brother Yoel has chosen Chain of Ideas, The Origins of Our Authoritarian Age by Brian K. Kendi. Now, this book was just recently published in March of 2026, and it connects racist ideas to authoritarianism, and it explores racist conspiracy theories that fuel global authoritarianism and authoritarianism. And so that's why we feel this reading is important. This is some very in-depth critical thinking type of information. And so if you want to win a copy of this book, we ask that you go to rrgbc.org and subscribe, and you can become a possible winner. We also have a petition out at Save Black Bookstores at change.org that we want you to sign so that we can get some funds to our bookstores. We feel that our local businesses and municipalities should be supporting our bookstores. So we ask that you go and sign that petition. And then finally, there is the Southside Community Federal Credit Union located at 5401 West Wentworth. Now, they have been there for over 20 years also. And this financial institution is not just a banking institution looking to make money off of you. This is a banking institution that cares about you. And they have a lot of products in terms of personal loans, business loans, vacation savings accounts for your children as young as 7 years old. They give financial literacy classes, and they need you to open up accounts. That's how banks make their money, by our dollars sitting in the banks and our dollars transferring through the different banking institutions. So let's support a banking institution that is going to support us, and that is the Southside Community Federal Credit Union. Okay? All right. So now let's get to our guest, Johnny Bolton. Johnny Bolton is a certified appraiser. And Johnny, how long have you been an appraiser? I want to ask you that.
I started in 2020, no, 2004. So it'll be
Okay.
it'll be 22 years. And now I'm going into my 23rd year because I remember in March of 2020, of 2004, that's when I started. It's now 2026. So yeah, that makes 22 years. So I'll be going into my 23rd year.
Okay.
Yeah, as of March.
Okay, so you have some knowledge. You have seen a lot of changes here in Chicago, and I'm sure you have had a lot of experiences with 22 years, because a lot of changes have occurred in this city of Chicago, and especially with respect to properties and changes in communities, gentrification, all of that. And so you have definitely have had a lot of experience and can give us some very good information. And
Yes, ma'am.
so I would like for you to start out by telling us about yourself and how you got involved in this before we start talking about these actual appraisals.
Okay, well, it's a funny story. So prior to me becoming an appraiser, I was a personal trainer at Crunch Fitness, and it was on Grand and Wabash, right across the street from the Nordstroms.
Mhm.
So I was training this client at one point in time, and I told her that I wanted to get into real estate, but I didn't want to become an agent. And
Okay.
so she suggested that, why don't you become a real estate appraiser? So I did the knowledge on it. Researched it and everything. I was like, well, yeah, this is something that I can do. So luckily enough for me, as I was training, the classes were like right downtown. So once I was done with training, I can go head over to the Chicago Association of Realtors. Now at that time, they had real estate appraiser classes. So after I was done with work, I go over there, and I didn't get out. I had to arrive there like 6. We didn't get out to like maybe, I want to say maybe 8:30, 9 o'clock, somewhere in there. It was a long time. So that was 2023, the summer of 2023, when I was taking those courses. So after, you got to take 3 sets of courses. So after passing the 3 sets of courses, you have to submit paperwork in order to take the state exam. So I did that. And then, taking the state exam, you really have to prepare for it though. It's like a college level test.
Okay.
So I kind of blew it off and everything. I thought that I could go in there and take the test and it'd be no problem. But that wasn't the case at all.
Wow.
So my first time I took the exam, I got like a 60 something. And you need a 75 to pass, okay?
Okay, that was gonna be my question.
Yeah,
What
you need
you
a
need to
75
pass.
to pass.
Okay.
So the second time I took it, I got like a little bit higher, but still in the 60s. So I'm like, man, um, I got to study. I really got to study. So after that, I really knuckled up and studied. So the third time I took it, I didn't get a 75, but I got like close. I think I got like a 72 or something, or like the in between a 70 and a 74. I didn't get a 75. So that was the
Mm.
third time. So the fourth time I took it, I think I got maybe a 73, you
Oh,
know.
wow.
So I'm like,
Is there
wow.
is there a limit to how many times you can take it?
With this, you can take it as many times. As long as you're paying, you can
Okay.
take it as many times.
Okay.
So, okay, that was the fourth time I took it. So the fifth time I took it, I think I got like a 69. So I started going backwards. So the sixth time I took it, I passed, but they don't tell you your score. They just tell you you passed. And so I
Okay.
was just so happy to get up out of there. I didn't even. You can't request your scores, but you have to call in or write them to get your passing score. I didn't
Okay.
even do that. I just was just
I'm
happy to
just
pass.
glad you passed.
Yeah. So
Mhm.
um, and then upon passing my state exam, see, a lot of people don't know this. You have to find someone who's willing to take you on as a trainee. And so I had a trainee's license. However, I didn't have anybody willing to take me on as a trainee. So after months of
So that
trying,
means, excuse me, but that means you have to work for
you have
like
to work under
appraisal.
someone because
uh,
you don't know what you're doing,
Okay.
and you need somebody to teach you the techniques, teach you how to measure, to just basically teach you the profession because you're considered as a novice. You don't know
Oh,
anything. I mean, the classes, they give you the practical knowledge, but the hands-on knowledge, you definitely need to train under someone.
sure.
Okay, so upon they didn't tell you that you need to train under someone for like 2 years. So I couldn't find anybody to take me on as a trainee. So I had my license for probably about 8 months to a year without somebody training me. And so luckily enough, after continually trying and this, that, and the other, a young lady took me on. She was actually younger than me.
Hmm.
Her name was Diane Howard. She took me on as a trainee, trained
Hmm.
under her for about a year. And then I trained under another guy. His name is Eric Lynn. Trained under him for about another year. And at that point in time, I felt that I had enough knowledge to go off on my own. So in order to go off on my own, I got to take another exam. But I knew what to prepare for this time, you know.
Mhm.
So uh, it's basically the same exam, but you're just allowed to train. Well, I guess you don't need anybody to sign off on your work once you pass this other exam.
Okay.
So I really studied for this time. I really studied a lot harder this time. So I flunked the first time. I came close. I got like I think like a 73. But then the second time I passed, no problems, you know.
Mhm.
So that happened in 2008, I want to say. Yeah, 2008.
Mhm.
And so I've been on my own ever since then.
Okay.
And yeah, so yeah, it's an experience. And I think I became certified right before the crisis when Obama was heading into office. So I saw
Okay.
the downward trend right there, you know.
Okay.
But I stayed busy even though you had the housing crisis, you know,
Sure.
when Obama came into office. But I stayed busy. It didn't really affect me at all.
Okay. Okay. Why was it so difficult for you to find somebody to take you on? I was thinking about that while you were saying.
Then number one, there are not a lot of black appraisers, okay, and then two, uh, I guess you know, I'll say this: you have a lot of other people who have their like sons and daughters. They'll take them on, and they're not willing,
Mhm.
to train another trainee, though. So
No.
those are one of the drawbacks to appraising. So anybody that's interested in becoming an appraiser, make sure you have somebody willing to take you on uh, after you pass the exam, because if you don't, you're going to be like I was, 22 years ago, uh, having a license but nobody willing to train you.
Mhm.
So
Do we have a lot of black appraisers out here now?
I still don't think that we have a lot. There
Mhm.
are there are quite a few of us, but I don't think we have a lot in terms of numbers. I think
Mhm.
I know maybe about I'd say no more than 7 black appraisers here in the
Mhm.
Chicago metropolitan area.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now
So
there may be
I would also assume if someone is taking you on, they're also taking on there's a level of responsibility there for the work that you do.
yeah, yeah. So the trainee, they cannot sign off on the work. And
Okay.
what I've been told now is that the trainee can't put their signature on the report at all.
Mm-hmm.
But they are allowed to help in some way, or form, or fashion, whether you know during the inspection or writing out the report. But I don't think that they're allowed to sign the report. But they do have to divulge that they what they contributed to the appraisal assignment.
Okay. Okay. Well, I think it's definitely important work in our community,
Yeah.
and we do need more Black people in the community doing this type of work. And so I appreciate you sharing your experience, and so that people not understand to take this seriously and understand how much work is involved and what you might be looking at down the road as far as trying to actually finally get your license and be able to work independently. So yeah. So let's get to talking about the appraisal itself.
Okay.
Um, kind of, well, don't kind of, but explain what an appraisal is and what you're looking for when you're doing an appraisal. Those things that are really important.
Okay. So an appraiser is an unbiased opinion of value. Okay. So typically, when I get an assignment, uh, some people work directly for the banks. I don't. I primarily work for a different AMCs. And so we're considered as independent contractors. Okay.
Mhm.
So how it works is the banks order the appraisal through the appraisal management company because they want the banks and the appraisers uh, kind of independent of one another. They want like a go between. But some appraisers, they have direct relations with the banks and everything, and they work directly for the bank, even though they might not be in some instances, they might be a bank employee, but
Mhm.
in most instances, they are independent contractors, okay, but they still work for the bank. Okay, with that being said, the banks order the appraisals through the appraisal management company. The appraisal management company, they send the appraisal order over to us. So I'll get the assignment whether it's a purchase or refinance, or sometimes people go into foreclosures and they still want to know the value of the home. So I'll get the assignment or whatever, and I'll try to do as much preliminary research on the property prior to me doing the actual inspection. Like looking up the year that it was built, the square footage, if it was listed on the MLS. I check how many bedrooms they have. Now, when I say bedrooms, I mean above grade bedrooms. Now, above grade means that they are not in the basement. A lot of time, homeowners consider a bedroom in the basement part of the total bedroom count, but we're not allowed to do that as appraisers. We're not allowed to do that. We
Mhm.
only consider above grade bedrooms in our bedroom count, meaning like first floor, second floor. If you have a finished attic, uh, and yeah, if you have a finished attic with a bedroom, we'll consider that. But there's a section in the report that allows for basement finishes. So if you have a rec room, if you have a bedroom in the basement, if you have a bathroom, there's a section in the report that allows us to input that information. And when I say bedroom, okay, I mean a bedroom has to have a window, a door, and it has to be finished with a source of heat. Okay,
Okay.
that's what I mean when I say bedroom. A lot of people say that they have a bedroom, but they don't have a door. They may have like a big opening and call that a bedroom. No, a
Does it
bedroom,
have to have a closet?
yeah, it has a closet too. That's what I was
Mhm.
thinking too, a closet, a door, a window, and a closet. So those are the technical definitions of a bedroom.
Okay. Now you have some homes, and I've talked to a couple of appraisers about this. You have some homes where the bedroom, you have the bedroom, especially some of the older homes.
Hmm.
The structures may be different, and you got the closet right adjacent to the bedroom. It's not
Okay,
in the bedroom, but it's right adjacent to the
yeah.
bedroom.
So there are a lot of homes like that. They are older homes. I mean, like really, really older homes.
Mhm.
So I use my discretion because if the closet is right there, now when those homes were built, they still called it a bedroom, okay?
Mhm.
Because the closet, as soon as you step out of the room, the closet is like right there. You
Right.
don't have to go down the hall or anything like that, but the closet is right there. So I use my discretion in terms of that. In most instances, I'll call it a bedroom, but I'll have to note in the report that the closet is outside of the actual room itself.
Okay. Okay.
But any home built like recently, if it that's the case, I'm not definitely not going to call it a bedroom. The builder should know better at this point. But like during the early 1900s or even late 1800s, a lot of homes were built like that, and you primarily see those in attics. Okay.
Okay. Okay. So you're looking at the structure of the house, you're looking at the square footage of the house. What about the condition of the home?
Okay. Now, what I would call, now this is just my personal opinion.
Mm-hmm.
There's no strict guidelines to this. Now, and I don't think that I'm a bougie person in terms of my taste or anything, but you like to live comfortable.
Sure.
So I the way I look at a home is if when I walk in there I think that in the condition that it's in right now, when I
Hmm.
walk in there, could I live in it? And if I say it's in average condition, that means it got the basic need. I can live in this, without you doing anything else to it. Now, a lot of investors they buy these homes and they fix them up. And when I say fix them up, they gut it down to the studs, whatever. And so you still have the shell. However, everything in the home is new electrical system, new plumbing, new fixtures, new floors, new kitchen, new bathrooms, things of that nature, new doors, interior doors, paint, hardwood floors. Yeah, so those are renovated homes. And then you have some homes that are completely new, meaning like the whole structure is new. You
Hmm.
know, the whole. I mean, it was built from the ground up. Now, those are the homes that obviously you can live in there. Then there are homes where there's some deferred maintenance. The owner has had the home for years. However, during the course of those years, they have not done anything to improve their homes. They just basically lived in it. They didn't update anything, or they let things um, become old, and now it's barely working. You probably still can live in it, but you need we call that cosmetic work. It may need some cosmetic work done to it. And then there are some homes where you walk in, it's like, well, uh, let me hurry up and get this done so I can leave.
Okay.
And you know that those homes they need everything. They
Need a
need
lot of work.
total repair. And then I guess you could say the last one is the home is just totally effed up. Um, you're walking over stuff, and there may be some health or safety issues regarding the home. So we got to note that into the report too. But again, I am not a home inspector. That is not my job. I give value. Now, if there's something that I see, physically see, whereas I gotta call some question to it. I have to note that into the report that this may present some health and safety issue regarding this home. Say, for example, faulty steps or whatever. Somebody could fall, or an electrical box that's open,
Hmm.
uh, holes in the walls, things like that. If there's an odor, things like that. So, um, yeah, I got to note that into the report. If there are cracks in the basement foundation, yeah, I definitely need to note that into the report.
Okay. Okay. So, what about a well-maintained home?
So, a well-maintained home is, they've done some updating. I mean, it's probably not like new or anything, but you could still walk into the home and basically live in there. But again, it's not new, but they've kept it up, and that's why I try to tell homeowners at least try to do something to your home, maybe at least once a year, but definitely every 2 years, because if you let the problem fester, you're going to pay eventually, but you probably less by doing what you need to do now as opposed to paying more when the problem is a lot bigger.
Okay. Okay. So, working in Chicago, especially for the number of years that you have worked,
Yes.
how would you say has your lived experience shaped the way you see property values in this city?
Okay. I'll say this, that definitely the north side is like night and day. Definitely the north side is. I say once you get past I want to say Cermak going south. Now, it's like night and day, night and day. So I've done I've done $2 million homes. I think the highest property I appraised was actually a condo in Lincoln Park, and it had the top floor. It had an elevator inside the condo. So you got
Mhm.
the regular elevator, but this elevator had its own private elevator, and it had two levels. And that appraised, I think that was like $9 million. So that was the highest that I've appraised.
Mhm.
And I've appraised homes that are distressed homes, and they're getting the lower value. So I've seen everything, the full circle of homes. So now there are sections on the south side of Chicago, such as Bronzeville. Um, what's the area over there? Bridgeport. Some sections of Beverly, where you see the higher values on the south side. But generally speaking, uh, those are the well, I wouldn't say higher value properties here on the south side of Chicago. Bronzeville, Bridgeport, Beverly, um, maybe some areas of Washington Park. I'd say in between 51st to like maybe 39th. You got some 2.5 story homes. Those Greystone homes. That's the word I'm looking for. Greystone homes. Because I just did one over there. I want to say Friday. Uh, the owner, they purchased the home in 2024. However, they haven't done anything to it, so it's still basically a shell. But they're gonna renovate the home. It's a gray stone, and they're gonna put a lot of work into it. So after they completely renovate the home, I anticipate that home being selling for probably at least $1 million or more.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Wow. Now, do you believe black appraisers see neighborhoods differently when they're looking at these properties than white appraisers?
Well, I've heard some things regarding uh, people who come in from outside our communities,
Mhm.
and I've even say, for example, someone has some questions regarding an appraisal that they've had done on their home from people who may come from the northwestern suburbs, and they'll ask me to take a look at it, and I'll give them my professional opinion regarding that, and I'll say what I would have done differently, as opposed to what the appraiser who appraised the home had done differently. But again, I am not in that appraiser's head. I don't know what they were thinking. To me, when I submit a report, it has to make logical sense. I got to compare apples to apples, not apples to oranges, so to speak.
Mhm.
So I can see some appraisers being biased because you know that's just the nature of this world. I can see it. They're not supposed to be. Because when
Mhm.
I go into their neighborhoods, I go in there with an unbiased opinion, but I let the market tell me the value. The market tells me the value. I just interpret what the market is telling me. I don't decide the value. The market decides the value. You know. So I
So,
take all of the information and piece it together like a puzzle because each appraisal is different. It's like putting together a jigsaw puzzle. You're not going to get the same um, appraisal for each different home.
okay, so when you're coming up with these values, then there's also this understanding that you're comparing homes to other homes that have sold in the area. Um,
Absolutely.
Can you talk about that? You know,
So
how that works.
so when I'm doing the appraisals, I try to stay within uh, a square first and foremost. Because the homes are like right there,
Mm-hmm.
and the closer it is to the date that I'm doing the appraisal, it makes the appraisal more credible. We want to say for example, um, if a home, if I'm doing an appraisal today, and I would prefer not having to go beyond 6 months in order to find sales. I actually prefer them being within 3 months because that's a great indication of value. Okay, but markets change every 3 months, so a home might be one value 3 months from now, and then another 6 months it might be a different value.
Mm-hmm.
That's just how markets are. So I try to stay as close to the subject as possible because the closer the sales are to the subject, that just makes the appraisal more credible. And the
Mm-hmm.
closer it is to the date of you doing the appraisal, again, that's why I try to stay within 3 months. We're allowed to go back as far as 12 months. I try to avoid doing that, but if that's the only option, I gotta use those sales going back 11 months. And sometimes, depending on the property, the lender may ask you to go beyond 12 months, because there are no sales that are similar to the subject. And when I say sales, I mean sales, they don't have to be exactly like the subject, but we try to use sales that are most similar to the subject, you
Mm-hmm.
know, most similar, but they're not exactly like the subject. So we try to pull sales that are most similar to the subject in terms of year built, um, bedroom and bathroom count, um, brick versus frame, um, finished basement, 2-car garage, even the lot size, the size of the lot. We try to pull sales that are most similar to the subject. In terms of
Mm-hmm.
design, you may have a bungalow. We try to pull bungalows. Um, if that's the subject. Now, if it's a step ranch, we try to use step ranch homes. Now, when I say step ranch, you only have a first floor and you have a basement. Okay, that's what I mean by step ranch. Now,
Okay.
bungalow, you have the first floor, you have the basement, and then sometimes the attic may be finished.
Okay. Oops. Okay. So when you are looking at these properties, we got properties on the south side and we got properties on the west side, you got properties on the north side, you got properties downtown. When comparing homes, why do the properties on the south side and the west side properties appraise lower?
Well, uh, that's a good question.
And let's just give similar, similar properties, structurally, condition wise.
Well, I'll say this: each on the south side, you have different areas. You have different markets. So,
Mhm.
for example, you may have Bronzeville. Now, properties in Bronzeville, they're going to sell higher as opposed to a property in Chatham or what's another area? South Shore. You
Mhm.
know, um, Hyde Park. Oh, I forgot Hyde Park. Hyde Park is another area where the property values are higher.
Mhm.
Um, but again, those the markets on the north side, they are totally different from the markets on the south side. I'll say that's one of the reasons, you know. Um, and again, you got to compare apples to apples. All the properties on the south side, I'd say outside of Hyde Park, Bronzeville, areas of Beverly, areas of Bridgeport, they basically compete with some of the homes on the north side. Okay, but outside of those areas, you know, some of the homes on the south side, for example, Auburn Gresham, they don't compete with the homes on the north side. You know, they don't. It's just a different market, different style homes. You know, more amenities. A lot of those homes that I appraise on the north side, they are very spectacular. You know, and
Mhm.
that's not to say that some of the renovated homes here on the south side are not spectacular, but it's just a different market, though. You know.
So amenities with the properties themselves, um, as well as what about the amenities in the neighborhood, like more businesses
Yeah,
in the
you definitely
neighborhood?
have that. You definitely have a lot more businesses on the north side. You rarely see a vacant business on the north side.
And so, how do these businesses impact the market?
Well, for number one, the businesses they're paying more in taxes. So I always say this that when you have a lot of vacant businesses and everything, all of that tax burden falls on the homeowners. They got to make up that difference some way somehow. You know, to keep up the area and everything. All of that stuff falls on the homeowners. But if
Hmm.
we have more businesses on here on the south side to offset that the homeowners paying more taxes, they can pay for the upkeep as opposed to all the burden falling on the homeowners. The businesses will offset that though. You know, like I say, I go from the north side to the south side, and the amount of vacant businesses, you know, that are just sitting there, you know. But I think that goes back years. That's a problem that goes back years and years and years ago because they get more incentives on the north side to open up businesses as opposed to here on the south side, you know. And I think, you know, our current mayor, he was attempting to change that. I think even prior to that, uh, the late great Harold Washington, he was attempting to do that as well, though, you know.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay. So these vacant lots, lack of resources in the community, and even the businesses that, let's say you have businesses, you ever do appraisals for people who are trying to get real retail space or trying to refinance retail space?
Now, when I first started, I was able to do that only if I was had somebody who was like a general appraiser who did that. But now they changed the rules so much that we're no longer able to do that. We're only able to we're only allowed to appraise homes that are single family homes and apartment buildings up to 4 units. So if it's beyond 4 units, it's considered as commercial space. Even the mixed unit buildings that has a business on the first floor and then apartments on the second or third floor, we're not allowed to do that. Those are considered as commercial appraisals right there. You know,
So that's a different type of appraisal.
yeah, because it's a lot of work involved, and you're not going to get those back typically within 2 or 3 days. It probably take a couple of weeks. You got to factor in the income coming in for the business, and there's a lot of stuff involved in those as well. I mean, I've done them before, but I haven't done them since they changed the rules, and I forgot how to do them. I haven't done them in such a long time.
Hmm. Um, Gentrification. Yeah, we've seen
Okay.
a lot of changes in the Black communities on the South Side and on the West Side of Chicago, and Black people are moving out, in many cases being pushed out, and other people are moving in. You still have these vacant lots all around,
Yeah.
where people are building, maybe building, or a lot of remodeling has gone on in
Hmm.
this city, because you have a lot of beautiful buildings, uh, very strong buildings here in Chicago, that have been around for a long time, and just remodeling them makes them even more appealing. And so where you have that going on, and you still have the vacant lots, and the community still haven't quite developed yet with businesses, how are the home values affected there,
Well,
those situations?
anytime you have vacant lots, well, especially multiple vacant lots on a block, yeah, I mean it's considered as a blight in the community or whatever. I've noticed uh, since the announcement of the location of the Obama Library, there were a lot of vacant lots in Woodlawn, and
Yes.
now you see homes selling for 600, $700,000. And I've appraised a few of them, and then I've appraised some new apartment buildings, whereas um, they'll have one unit is a basement unit, and then the first and the second floor is all one unit itself. So I think I did one this past fall, and that one sold for, I want to say, in the high sixes.
Hmm.
And it's a frame building. It's not brick, but what they use this new type of frame called hardy board, and it's better than a typical frame home than built from, like, maybe 1920. That hardy board is really, really, really good, really, really good. I mean, it can withstand. You won't see rips in it, from wind damage or anything like that. The hardy board is a different type of frame home. But to get back to your original thought, yeah, you see a lot of vacant land, and then you see people coming in. They putting up new homes in Woodlawn. Uh, some of it is going up in Inglewood. I know one guy who I work with. He's a good guy. He's black. Uh, he's put up a couple new homes, but it hasn't. Inglewood hasn't really taken off like that, like Woodlawn. I guess just the proximity of Woodlawn to the Obama Library and to the lakefront. But um, now I've seen a lot of renovation of 2 unit buildings in what is that, Inglewood. Now,
Hmm.
I've seen a lot of those, and the proximity of them being close to the junior college. What is it, Kennedy King, right there?
Hmm.
So the closer you are to Kennedy King, the higher the property, the higher, if you got a 2 flat or 3 flat. There are not a lot of 3 flats in Inglewood, but there are a lot of 2 flats. But the closer you are to the college over there, the higher the property value, as far as the 2 flats tend to be. You go further west, towards Ashland and Damon. I wouldn't say that it's a considerable drop off, but in that particular section, the property values just seem to be higher, closer to the junior college, Kennedy King.
Is that because of the college itself,
Yeah,
or the
it was
university?
it was it was because of the college, and remember, at one point in time they had the Whole Foods over there, but the Whole Food closed down, and now it's something else. And see, my buddy and I, we talked about this some time ago, that you have For example, you have Whole Foods coming there. They're not like the Whole Foods on the north side. They'll put up like a little small shop up in there, like they did on 63rd and Halsted.
Sure.
Uh, they'll occupy it for like a number of years, and then they'll just say we're closing the store, which is what they did. They did that, and they did that to the Target over there in Chatham, just west of the Dan Ryan. So now you got, well, somebody's occupying the Whole Foods. I think it's a Save a Lot now, but nobody's occupying that Target over there in Chatham. You know, you got the Lowe's over there. Lowe's pretty much stay busy because you got a lot of contractors in there. Even that
Home Depot.
Home Depot on 87, you got a lot of people coming in and out of there all the time. But
Mm-hmm.
that Target over there is just empty. You know, they got boulders up in there, you know, preventing people from, you know, parking their cars up in there. You know, so that's another blight on the community when, you know, you set up a business there, and then after so many number of years, it's not making any money. Then we're shutting the store down. You know,
So did having Target, in that area, you had Target in that area, you had Walmart in that area. Did having those businesses help with the property values in the community?
no, I don't think that they help, but I just look at it from the standpoint of convenience because you know a lot of older folks, you know, they may not be able to go to the north side or Bridgeport in order to get everything that they need. Though it was just convenient. Though I mean, you probably could hop a bus or you know walk over there and walk back home. But you know, I just look at it in terms of convenience, and I think the aldermen are to blame. Aldermen and women, they are to blame for allowing these companies to come into our communities,
Mm-hmm.
operate for a few years, and then pull up shop. You know,
Mm-hmm.
there should be some stipulation where if you don't stay for a certain number of years, then you some type of penalty should be
Sure.
imposed. You know,
Mm-hmm.
especially if it's a big chain operation, because
Okay.
everything in these communities run through all the men or all the
Sure.
women. Yeah.
So what do you think about why don't we have more businesses in our community?
Well, a lot of us. Um, that's a good question. I'll just say it. Some of us, we don't know how to take care of stuff though, you know. And now I'm not saying the owner, but you know, the patrons that come into the establishment, they don't see it as an investment into the community though, you know. Some people, they come in there, they they break in, they steal, you know, they don't see it as, well, hey, I'm helping this community out by coming in here and purchasing from the owner. You know, we gotta consider it as we have a stake in the operation as well, and seeing that it succeed. Um,
I think it's a two-way street there as well, because we already have people with businesses in our community that people in the community are frequenting.
mhm.
I mean, going on a regular basis, and these people are giving nothing back to our community. And I'm specifically speaking of many the immigrants, like the Arabs and the Koreans that have had all the businesses in our community, and they don't give anything back. But
Yes,
but their building their businesses survive
yes,
in our community. They are there. Whatever is going on, they're there. But then there are Black businesses, there are small business owners who just can't get the resources to get their places up and running, or to get the resources that they need to sustain their businesses. So there's a resource issue here as well. So it's not one answer that is, the reason. But when
Right.
I look at the sustainability, I see other people, they seem to have more resources to sustain themselves in our communities because they're here, and many of them have generations, have built generational wealth, you know, on with the little stores, and now they have new stores with the gas stations. Now they have new gas stations, you
Hmm.
know, and then we have these smoke shops and cannabis shops, that are opening up all in our community. But dollars are going out, and even with our black owned businesses, how many of them we assume that they support the community? And I would say probably most of them do, but then there are many who take their dollars out.
Yeah. So regarding that, I do notice that, uh, just like you just stated, that you have certain people who will come into our communities and they haven't been here long at all, but they'll get a 7-Eleven, you know,
Mhm.
7-Eleven or a Dunkin' Donuts, they'll get a Dunkin' Donuts, all of that though. And they don't look like us. They may be the same color as us, but ethically speaking, they're not us though.
Mhm.
I've noticed that as well. Uh, but again, I think a lot of that stuff flows through the alderman because the alderman or woman, they know what's being put up in their community,
Mhm.
and they approve that stuff. Everything has to go through the alderman or alderwoman. I think that each alderman or alderwoman, they should, especially if you're black, they should pick somebody from within their community and give them the first right to put up a business in their community. They
Mhm.
should have workshops on that, telling them what they need to get done, how to go about getting it. Because again, everything flows with the aldermen, and the aldermen, they have, people under them that do the legwork and everything, but ultimately everything goes through that alder person.
Quickly, can you speak to redlining and what that looks like?
Well, redlining is not allowing a person, or I wouldn't say a person, an ethnic group to live within a certain community. And I don't necessarily know if they do that nowadays via uh, via ethnicity or person's color. I think redlining nowadays is income. If you can't afford to live there, then a lot of us probably can't afford to live on the north side just because property values are higher. But they do the redlining through income now, so they've masked it. You know.
Okay. Well, we're getting to the top of the hour. What would you say to Black homeowners on the South Side and the West Side of Chicago?
Uh I would say number one, keep your property up. Uh, if you see some lit yeah garbage in front of your house or even in front of your neighbor's house, pick it up. Because
Mhm.
that helps you keep your property looking clean. You don't have to go through the whole block, but if your neighbor's like right next door to you, especially if they're an elderly person, just go pick it up. Your blessings will come another way. You know,
Why is that important?
it's important for aesthetics, though. You want your home to look good. Even if even if you're not selling it, it's still your property though. You should
And what
want to keep
about
up with.
and what about the value, the property value? Because there are
Yeah,
communities here in Chicago where well, the people's houses may not be um, um, in stellar condition. They may not be the best homes, but when you come through and you do not see the garbage, you know, on the ground, how does that affect the property value?
now
Or does
even though even though the property's probably not in the best condition, but you don't see if you don't see like garbage everywhere, you may see potential if you purchase that home, especially if the neighborhood is being well kept. The home might not be the best of homes per se, but if the area is kept up nice, you see potential. And then too, you start off, if you purchase the home, then maybe other homeowners will say, well, hey, they're keeping their home up. I should get on my job and keep my home up because it filters throughout the neighborhood. Though you want to take pride in your block, well, take pride in your home, take pride in your block, take pride in your neighborhood. Though,
Mhm.
and that should have a ripple effect.
So since you have a biased opinion about things as an appraiser, when you come into a community and you see garbage, does that diminish the value of the property?
Nah, because again, I'm supposed to be unbiased.
Okay.
Uh, I make no judgment one way or the other. All I can all I can say is if I'm appraising a home and I see stuff, I just note that there's debris everywhere. That's it.
Hmm.
You know, debris everywhere. Now, if there's a debris
So
that's
it
causing,
is something that gets noted in the appraisal.
yeah, if they got a yard and there's debris everywhere, and yeah, I got to note it in the report though.
Hmm.
Because I take photos and they can see it too. You know,
Hmm.
now if I notice a foul odor, I got to note that into the report.
Okay. Okay. Well, thank you, Johnny. I think this has been informative. This is a very sticky subject, um, a very important subject because the appraisals and values of our properties uh, have a big impact on people's lives. It
It
impacts,
does.
you know, people trying to sell their homes. It impacts people trying to refinance their homes, people trying to purchase homes. It just taxes.
Yeah.
uh,
Yep.
yeah, I mean, how long people can stay in their homes and all of what happens here in Chicago with the market and the resources, all that discussion, it gets to be very very sticky, and it's a very significant for Black people. You have the Obama Library that has been built, and it's definitely had an impact on Hyde Park, but it's in Jackson Park. And so then people wonder, okay, how much impact is this library going to have on the people who live in South Shore,
All right.
who live on the other side or right there in Jackson Park. How much are they going to see the benefits of a development like this, coming into the community?
Yes. So regarding regarding the Obama Library, and I've been told this that a lot of people are not aware of the University of Chicago's influence well beyond that campus.
Oh, I think they are.
Yeah. And they've had a lot of impact on that entire area. They have a lot. They've had a lot of impact,
Hmm.
and I've been told that their sphere of influence is trying to go as far south as like 75th Street.
Hmm.
In terms of what they'd like to see done with that area. So yeah, it's a how can I say it, a uh, a sticky topic, because I don't think that they should have that type of influence beyond their campus. Now I can see you guys are in Hyde Park or whatever, but stretching as far south as deep into Woodline over there near the Obama Library, and
Mhm.
yeah, I don't think that they should have that type of influence, though.
And it seems as though the universities, uh, I would say the last 10, 20 years,
Hmm.
have really delved into real estate.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
know,
I would say
they
so
have
too.
their campus buildings have spread it out, downtown, and all over on that near west side of the University of Illinois
Hmm.
and the hospitals.
Hmm.
They have gotten very deep into real estate and then
Yeah,
having a huge impact on communities.
yeah. So,
Seem like they've done more of that than they are, other things.
so prior to the Obama Library being built, I don't think that it should have been built right there. That's my personal opinion because you're
Mhm,
taking public land for a private institution.
mhm.
But there was land already vacant. Uh, it was a lot closer to University of Chicago, although it was where was it? It's I want to say right there at 55th and King Drive, the northwest corner of that section. Vacant
Mm.
land right there that they could have built
That
that
would
lot.
have been in, Washington Park
Yeah,
area,
yeah,
right?
right.
Mhm,
Vacant land right there instead of
mhm,
taking public land for a private institution. I
mhm.
don't think they should have did that though.
No?
But that's just my personal opinion. But like I said, the University of Chicago, they had a lot to do with that land being taken for that particular purpose. And now, you see it six, $700,000 homes being built in Woodlawn, walking
Mhm.
distance right there.
Yeah.
And I don't know a lot. I mean, we do have a lot of black people who are well off, but uh, the majority of us aren't. I don't know a lot of people who can afford those homes over there, and then not only afford the home, but you got to pay the taxes on them as well. You
Mhm.
know, so that's just my personal opinion.
Yeah. I agree with you. Absolutely. Well, Johnny, we went overtime, but I wanna thank you
Okay.
for coming on tonight.
Oh, you're more
Um,
than welcome.
and
Hopefully, you can have me back on at some point in time.
I would love to have
You
you
know,
back on because I didn't get through half of my questions. Uh,
okay,
yes, I would definitely love to have you back on and to
okay,
continue this discussion because we got issues going on over here in South Shore and the teen takeovers and all of
yeah,
that. I think all of this is relevant,
yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Mhm. Yep. So thank you for coming and family. Johnny, if people want to take advantage of your services, how can they get in touch with you?
Okay, yeah, my company is called Accredited Appraisals. My number is 773-547-1270. I go all over. I've gone further. I've gone further south than Kankakee.
Oh, I think
Uh,
Kankakee.
yeah,
Okay.
I've been down there. Been as far west as Rockford. I'm not going to Rockford anymore. I'd rather go to Kankakee than Rockford because I'm on
Okay.
the south side. But yeah, I go all over. I don't
Okay.
like going to I don't like going to Lake County, but I will
Mhm.
if the pay is worth it.
Okay.
Um, yeah. So I'll go all over, but I do a lot of appraisals for divorces as well, or estate appraisals as well. So
Mhm.
I cover a lot of bases.
Okay. Great. All right, Johnny. Well, thank you for coming on again. And
Thank you,
family,
Denise,
we
for
want
having me.
you to absolutely, and we want you to understand how important it is to have an understanding, to have a knowledge base about what's going on. So we want you to support our Black bookstores And most important, we want you to just think about how important it is to support our own businesses and for our businesses to give back so that we can sustain and maintain our communities. So thank you for coming on, and you have a good night.
All right, you do the same. Good night, everyone.